Hi everyone, so welcome to Missing for Value. So I thought I might just go through some popular EV stocks currently. So we've got Tesla, NIO, Nikola, Workhorse, and Hyliion, which will merge with this company. And these would basically be the very large ones that are available on the stock market. Of course, there's a few extra small ones, but let's just focus on these large ones that are actually performing great recently. So we've got Tesla. Tesla's at $1,000 US, which is an amazing feat. Who would have thought $1,000 would be reached probably like 12 months ago when the share price was being hit pretty heavily? So you imagine when you could buy a Tesla stock at $200 and now it's 1,000. So what have they achieved in this time frame? Like if we look at the production wise, total production, they have gone from 77,000 vehicles in Q1 of 2019 to 102,000 in Q1, which is pretty impressive, particularly when this is the low performing quarter. So we can expect as things go on, the next few quarters will be even more explosive, particularly now that they've got their Shanghai factory running. We'd imagine things will be going pretty well. So even on here, we'd be looking at about 400,000 vehicles, though this year they're looking at about 600,000 vehicles, and that's going to give us a really nice idea in terms of the benchmark of how many vehicles make it so that these valuations kind of make more sense. Because with Tesla, I do admit they're probably at a bit of a premium currently at 187 billion. But it is also onto a pathway that is creating a lot of value, and in the future this company is just gonna keep going higher and higher. So right now 1,000, it's kind of like that Amazon premium. For a long time we all thought Amazon was so highly priced, but it never came down because it always performed. And the same thing with Tesla, it might not come down by that much because it always performs, and it always in a way surprises you, as Elon Musk does sometimes. And then we've got NIO, and their stock price has been doing fairly well recently, having gone from about $3.50 to over $7, though there's a bit more room to run, particularly given their current record right now. So for a while they were just producing a few thousand vehicles, as we can kind of see right here. Q1 was 3,800 vehicles. Q4, which is usually the better performing quarter for NIO, was about 8,000 vehicles, and it was up from the other quarter of 4,799. And you kind of get the idea that over time it's been increasing. And particularly the guidance was particularly impressive as we look at the second quarter. They're expecting 9,500 to 10,000 vehicles for that quarter. And if we kind of do more like a straight line estimate, it more or less puts them along the line of 35,000 to 40,000 vehicles. And if we benchmark that with like Tesla, who's looking around about 600,000 vehicles, then it kind of starts to give us kind of a comparison between these two car companies of in terms of the numbers and why Tesla's valued at so much more. Though there's a big question if Tesla's worth 187 billion, and 10% of that would be 18 billion. And then, given that if they produced 600,000 cars and 10% was 60,000, and they did 2/3 of this, then 2/3 of like 18 billion would probably get about 12 billion. So in terms of in terms of the valuation, NIO's kind of in a way undervalued, because we'd probably look at a 12 billion valuation if we place the numbers in accordance with Tesla. Though this next company is probably gonna just flip that entirely on its head, because it's kind of worth 24 billion, and I don't have to go through numbers because there is no numbers. And this basically sums it up. Nikola founder has 7.4 billion fortune on 3 truck orders. So here we go, no revenue, no problem for company valued at over 20 billion. As we see here, it's worth currently 24 billion, which is an incredible valuation for a company based on pre-orders. As it's put here, now with 14,000 orders, but no cash to show for it, and that's the big question of how do we trust this company in terms of its what it can actually produce. And the thing is, we don't know yet. We really don't know until we literally see them start to make progress. And it's the same thing with a lot of companies. It's a lot of wait and see, kind of like Tesla. Tesla's over time has proven itself to be good when it comes to promising products and delivering on it. And that's why its share price has done extremely well over time. And in terms of Nikola, well, they are starting to change. Instead of free orders, they've got the badger on, and it would cost $5,000 for the pre-orders. So I think this will start to be a good indication in terms of what their interests for the vehicles are. And $5,000 is quite a fair bit for a car that it won't be delivered for quite a while. And Nikola hasn't even revealed it, and they will do that in December the 3rd or the 5th. So I think this probably could be the start where Nikola is starting to build some more credibility, because they definitely need quite a bit. Right now it's built up on a lot of hype, over $20 billion of hype. And if we compare with NIO itself is producing tens of thousands of cars, yet it's nowhere near that valuation at 8 billion. So the big question is, Nikola is worth a lot, but it needs to really deliver. So next one is Workhorse Group. So Workhorse kind of does a lot of vehicles relating to courier deliveries, and it's really doing really well currently in the stock market, having risen from about $2.50 to about $14.50. And then basically on the opening of this market right now, we're looking at a continued rise, because recently it has been rising substantially. We're looking at 1573, which will be quite an impressive performance on their part in terms of the share price recently. And your question must be, what have they been achieving? So if we can look here, they're producing these electric courier vehicles that don't really have a long life battery, but enough to do the last parts of that delivery chain. And here we go. They have a decent history of producing these electric vehicles, and this year they hope to produce something around 300-400 vehicles. Still not a lot of vehicles, but over time that's going to ramp up, and hopefully they really get going. So they have a facility that can produce up to 60,000 chassis per year, and it's a sign of things to come. As you can see, this is one of their newer models, and they're also working with Lordstown Motors, which will be, I guess, a new EV truck that they don't own, but they will help produce it. They will be the manufacturer for these vehicles, so that will help them in terms of gaining some extra money and with their scaling in terms of EV production. And they also brought a facility that they purchased from GM, and that can produce 250,000 cars. So that starts to give some real credibility to this company in terms of it's kind of diversified in terms of what it's doing right now, and it's kind of growing in an EV space. Of course, you were looking at about $1 billion valuation, though I think in the scheme of things, it still looks fairly cheap. It could still be a 1.5 to 2 billion. I think 3 billion is when it starts to look a bit too much in terms of valuation. Though if we compare against Nikola, then it's still very, very low. But if we compare against NIO, then we particularly might want to hold it steady to that 2 billion. Because it's in its own space because it's producing these courier trucks, and other companies aren't really producing it. So I think they're more unique, and they're looking like they might be onto something pretty good, particularly in this business-to-business kind of environment where they're working with all these courier companies, and hopefully it does eventuate to something. At least they have a actual product on the market. So I am out of these. I am liking Workhorse quite a bit, followed by NIO, in terms of its valuation wise anyway. And then we have this other company, which is currently a shell company waiting to be merged with another company, and this is Hyliion, if that's how you pronounce it. And they've done a good comparison in terms of the current products that they'll be competing with. So basically this is a company that will have an additional attachment to a truck, as we can see here. So they've got a battery pack, control unit, and so on. And in here we can see kind of like a diagram of where it gets added to the truck, and it kind of forms like this hybrid, and it kind of helps save fuel consumption, lowers costs, and it's, as they can show here, up front you're looking at about 157,000 compared to a standard diesel truck of 132, but over time, over a 7-year period, you would be expecting it would cost you 241,000, while with a normal diesel truck you'll be looking at about 300,000. And then if we come to the cost of ownership over that 7 years, it is still quite a bit lower. And then this is the most fascinating part, where it compares itself with Tesla and Nikola. And basically Tesla's, you're looking at about 200,000 up front, Nikola 235,000, and at 220,000, so right in the middle in terms of the value for up front. And then when we look at the fuel costs, of Tesla 98,000, Nikola 350,000. So that's also one of those sticking points why Nikola has so much to prove, because they've got these trucks that are expensive to run, yet the valuation of this company is that high. So it kind of points to this company and going, once they merge, they might be about a $4 billion company, given the current share price, if this holds up. And $4 billion in the scheme of things compared to Nikola, it seems pretty cheap, although we're compared to a company that's fairly highly flated. And so if we look at the overall cost of ownership, the Hypertruck ERX is significantly cheaper at 279,000, and when you look at Tesla, you're looking at 438,000, and in Nikola 637,000. So if we compare these numbers, this company is showing some very good numbers, but it is not pure electric. It is a hybrid. So it's if you could say this is a really good benchmark comparison. Though if you go in terms of environmental, hybrids still are not the pure EV, but that's how things go sometimes. This company is still producing significantly better value in terms of the ownership, and I think companies might be considering this a lot more than just the impact on the environment. They might be going, we have some environmental impact, but at the same time, it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg. So that's the thing. This is going to be a big value consideration. So when I'm looking at these companies and I'm looking at them and going, okay, this kind of looks pretty impressive, and who wouldn't if you're beating the cost of a Tesla, right? Well, a semi-truck for Tesla. So if we kind of look at these companies, Tesla 187 billion, NIO 8 billion, Nikola 24 billion, Workhorse 1 billion, and Hyliion will be about 4 billion. And the share price is showing a bit of a decrease here, which is probably normal considering like how much it's just rocketed in the last month or even week, to be fair. So I think this company has some potential that it can go up, particularly if we compare against the Nikola valuation, and the potential is definitely there. Though I do like Workhorse a bit more because the product's actually there, and they've actually got contracts for it. They've got the facilities. It just shows a bit more credibility. Like in terms of business, Tesla's obviously the best business out of all these. But in terms of valuation, I think I'd give it to Workhorse, then NIO, and then Hyliion, then Tesla, and then Nikola, since I feel like it's quite overvalued in the scheme of things. And it may show its ability to be a bit more credible if these $5,000 pre-order trucks do perform really well. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, or what your rankings would be in terms of these 5 EV companies. Which one you would say was better value? In terms of value, that's quite different to a different business model. So just because I'm siding with Workhorse in terms of the valuation, in terms of the upside, it doesn't mean I don't think Tesla is a great business. I think it's the best business out of this. But out of this valuation, it is very, very high in the scheme of things. So, but I think, you couldn't go too wrong investing in these. I probably couldn't agree about buying Nikola. Like, they've got so much to prove. I think you should probably just have a wait and see approach, and then see if they can prove themselves a bit more before you would say this was a good long-term stock. Definitely in terms of valuation, it's very, very high. At least Tesla, NIO, and Workhorse has proven that they're actually able to produce, and in with Hyliion, at least their concepts are really showing they have proven it to an extent. So I think in terms of valuations, they're not too bad. They've got a great future, particularly with EV vehicles being the big future in the next few years, especially with countries that are going to be starting to limit the particular, imports of like EV vehicles, or the manufacture of those. And it's also like a social good, as we can, if we've seen with Facebook recently, there's been a boycott of advertising, and if we look at trucking companies over time, there might be a bit of a social responsibility. So, those are things to consider, that maybe companies will be jumping on the EV bandwagon, and it could well be that's things just start to jump in 2021. As we can see, 2021 will be when Tesla has their truck, and where Hyliion will also have their truck, and then Nikola will be 2 years afterwards, so at 2023. It certainly makes for something interesting, particularly in this area, since there's a massive area that's starting to just pop out of nowhere. and really start to peak, get the interest of the whole stock market. I'd say it really started with Tesla, and then after Tesla got so highly valued, everyone's like looking at all these other stocks and trying to find an undervalued proposition. And Workhorse seems to be one of those ones right now. But yeah, of course, if you're buying into these, you probably want to be buying more in the long term. And I guess some people will be hoping that it has a bit of a Nikola kind of a spike, and gets anywhere near its valuation. It'll be certainly interesting watching how things go. Until then, good luck investing, everyone. If you got any questions, just let me know. I'm certainly interested how you would rank these 5 companies in terms of your perceived value of which one is gonna offer the highest, reward for risks in terms of this situation. Alright, well, until then, good luck, everyone.